Something is returning to your life, Leo, something that once felt like a natural part of who you are. Something that perhaps went quiet for a while or seemed to drift away. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what that something is, how to recognize its arrival, and what it means for where your life is heading next. This is not a vague promise. There are 10 very specific signs that show up when a return of this nature is approaching for Leo, and the chances are high that you are already experiencing several of them, even if you have not yet connected what you are feeling to what is actually happening. Sometimes life gives back what it once asked you to set aside. Not in the same form, not in the exact same way, but in a form that is richer, deeper, and more aligned with who you have become in the time that has passed. And that return, when it comes, often brings with it a feeling of recognition so powerful that it stops you mid-breath. Watch for these 10 signs, because if you see them in your life right now, the return is already underway. Sign 1. You have been thinking about a version of yourself that existed before. Not with nostalgia exactly, not with a longing to go backward, but with a particular kind of recognition that something you once had, or something you once were, contained a truth that still matters to you. Maybe it was a quality of lightness you carried before certain pressures accumulated. Maybe it was a confidence you once inhabited naturally, before it was chipped away by certain experiences. Maybe it was a sense of joy that came easily, before life asked a great deal of you over an extended period of time. This kind of looking back with recognition rather than grief is the first sign that something is returning. For Leo, who is a sign that moves forward by nature, who is drawn toward what is next rather than what has been, this backward glance is meaningful precisely because it is unusual. When something from your past calls to you not out of loss but out of recognition, it is not asking you to return to the past. It is showing you something that belongs to your core, something that is part of who you fundamentally are, something that life temporarily separated you from, and that is now in the process of coming back in a new form, in a new season with new depth and new meaning. The qualities you remember, the lightness, the confidence, the easy joy did not disappear. They were placed in safekeeping while you went through what you needed to go through. And now the safekeeping is ending. They are returning to you. Not as they were, but as they are, matured, strengthened, tested, and more truly yours than they have ever been before. This first sign asks you to receive them, to welcome back the parts of yourself that you may have thought were gone. They were not gone. They were waiting for exactly this moment, the moment when you were ready to carry them with full awareness and full intention. Sign 2. There is a relationship, or perhaps more than one, where the dynamic is beginning to shift in a direction that feels more real, more honest, more genuinely connected than it has been in a while. Something that had grown slightly distant, slightly formal, slightly surface level is beginning to warm again. Conversations that had become routine are beginning to carry a spark of something genuine. A sense of true recognition between you and another person, the feeling of being actually seen, is beginning to return to your relational world. This warming and deepening of connection is the second sign that something is returning. For Leo, relationship is not a side feature of life. It is central to everything. When your connections are alive and real and nourishing, everything else in your life tends to function better. Your creativity flows, your confidence rises, your generosity is able to express itself fully. And when your connections are strained or surface level or compromised by unspoken things, a part of you goes quiet that is not meant to be quiet for long. The return of genuine connection, the kind where you are truly known and truly seen, is one of the most significant things that can arrive in a Leo's life. And it is arriving now, gradually and warmly, like the light returning after a long and overcast stretch of days. This might come in the form of an existing relationship that is finding its depth again. It might come in the form of a new connection that, from the very first conversation, carries that quality of genuine mutual recognition. In either case, the warmth you are beginning to feel in your relational world is not accidental. It is the return of something that is entirely native to who you are. Your capacity for deep, luminous, life-giving connection. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Sign 3. Your creative energy is stirring. It may be that you have felt creatively quiet for a period, not necessarily blocked in a dramatic sense, but simply flat. Without the kind of spark that makes you want to make things, express things, bring something into existence that did not exist before. And now, gently and almost unexpectedly, something is beginning to move in that creative space again. An idea arrives and actually excites you. An impulse to create something, a garden, a letter, a meal, a project, a conversation, a plan, arises and feels genuinely alive rather than obligatory. This return of creative energy is the third sign, and for Leo it carries particular significance. Creativity is not simply a hobby for your sign. It is a life force. It is how you process the world, how you contribute to it, how you make your presence felt and meaningful. When your creative energy is flowing, you are most fully yourself. When it goes quiet, something essential about your experience of life goes quiet with it. The fact that the creative spark is beginning to return means that something necessary has completed itself inside you. Some clearing, some rest, some internal reorganization has occurred that is now making room for the generative energy to flow again. Do not force it or rush it, but do not ignore it either. When the creative impulse arrives, give it a little room to breathe. Follow it even if just for a few minutes, because creativity, once invited back in, tends to grow quickly. And the return of your full creative vitality is one of the most life-changing things that can happen for a Leo. Sign 4. You are beginning to feel at home in your own life again. This is a subtle thing but profoundly significant. There is a quality of familiarity and ease with yourself, with your own thoughts, your own company, your own inner world, that is beginning to return after what may have been a period of feeling slightly disconnected from who you are. You recognize yourself again in small but meaningful ways. The things that have always mattered to you matter again with their full weight. The things that have always brought you genuine pleasure bring it again without effort. This sense of returning home to yourself is the fourth sign. For Leo, losing this sense of self-familiarity is one of the most uncomfortable experiences possible. You are a sign that is accustomed to a strong, clear relationship with your own identity, with knowing who you are and moving through the world from that place of knowing. When circumstances or relationships or prolonged difficulty temporarily obscure that self-knowledge, it can feel profoundly disorienting. The return of this inner comfort, this sense of being at home in your own skin, in your own thoughts, in your own life, is a homecoming of the deepest kind. And it is happening now, quietly, without drama, but fully and genuinely. Welcome yourself home. This is where everything good begins. Sign 5. Something you had almost stopped expecting is beginning to show signs of possibility. An outcome you had mentally categorized as unlikely, or a hope you had quietly set aside to protect yourself from further disappointment, is beginning to stir again. Not because your expectations have become naive or unrealistic, but because actual circumstances are beginning to suggest that what seemed impossible may not be impossible at all. This unexpected reopening of possibility is the fifth sign. It is particularly meaningful because it represents not just a change in your life circumstances, but a change in your inner landscape. A return of hope that is grounded in what you are actually observing, rather than simply in what you wish were true. For Leo, hope is not a passive state. When you genuinely hope for something, you orient your entire being toward it. You invest your fire and your loyalty in the direction of that hope. So when hope was set aside, when the protective part of you decided it was safer to stop expecting, something vital went quiet. The return of grounded, real evidence-based hope is therefore the return of a piece of your essential vitality. Let yourself hope again. Not recklessly, not without the wisdom of your experience, but genuinely. Because the thing you had almost stopped expecting is closer now than it has been in a long time. Sign 6. People are beginning to reflect your energy back to you differently. Where there was perhaps friction or misalignment or simple disconnection in certain relationships, there is beginning to be something more harmonious, more reflective of who you actually are. You are being met more accurately, recognized more truly, treated in ways that correspond more closely to what you know your own worth to be. This shift in how you are met by the world around you is the sixth sign. It is happening because something in your own energy has shifted, something in how you carry yourself, what you project, what you are available for, and what you are no longer willing to accept. And the world, as it always does, is beginning to mirror that shift back to you. For Leo, this kind of recognition from the outside world matters. Not because you need validation to know your own worth. At your best, you know it completely, but because being genuinely met and recognized is part of how your fire stays lit. It is part of how you are fed, how you are sustained, how the naturally generous and warm-hearted Leo continues to give without becoming depleted. The return of real, accurate recognition from the people in your world is not just pleasant. It is nourishing. It is fuel. And it is arriving now, gradually and with real substance, as a sign that the dynamic of your life is genuinely changing in your favor. Some people watch. Others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting. It's about moving. Sign 7. Your appetite for life has been returning. The flat, muted quality that sometimes descends when we have been through a sustained period of difficulty, that strange absence of genuine appetite for experience, for engagement, for the simple pleasures that once came easily, has been lifting. You want things again. You are interested again. You find yourself looking forward to things rather than simply moving through them. This return of genuine appetite for life, for experience, for joy, is the 7th sign, and it is one of the most beautiful. For Leo, this appetite is natural. You are not designed for a muted existence. You are designed for full engagement, for savoring, for enthusiasm, for showing up fully to the banquet that life offers. When that natural appetite has been suppressed by hardship or loss or prolonged stress, its return is like a physical sensation of coming alive again. Something in your chest opens. Something in your eyes brightens. Something that had gone quiet inside you begins to hum again with genuine life. This return of appetite is not superficial. It is not simply feeling better. It is a deep re-engagement with the gift of being alive. And for Leo, that re-engagement carries the potential to transform not just your inner experience but every area of your outer life as well. Because the Leo who is fully alive and genuinely engaged with life is magnetic, creative, generous, and unstoppable. That Leo is returning. And the world is about to feel it. Sign 8. Something you had closed off is beginning to open again. A part of yourself that you protected behind a carefully constructed wall, not out of coldness, but out of very understandable self-preservation, is beginning to find its way toward the light. Perhaps it is your heart, which contracted slightly after a disappointment or a loss. Perhaps it is your trust, which became more guarded after it was not honored in the way it deserved. Perhaps it is your hope for a specific kind of connection or experience or outcome that you had quietly given up on. Whatever you closed it for good reason, and there is no judgment in that. At the time, the closing was wise. It kept you safe and intact through something that required protection. But now the thing that needed protection has healed enough. Now the wall that kept you safe is beginning to serve a different function. Not protection, but limitation. And something in you knows it. The gentle reopening of what was closed is the 8th sign, and it is perhaps the most tender of all. Be gentle with yourself in this process. The reopening does not require you to become vulnerable recklessly or to trust blindly. It simply asks you to begin in small and manageable ways to let life back in, to let possibility back in, to let the warmth that is natural to you flow again in the directions that are genuinely safe and genuinely deserving of it. The return of openness, even gradual, even careful openness, is a gift that your future is waiting for. Sign 9. A clarity has been arriving about what matters, what does not, what is worth your energy, and what is simply not worth the cost anymore. This clarity is not harsh or jaded. It is more like the clear sight you have when you are well rested and genuinely at peace. A soft but accurate ability to see things for what they actually are rather than for what you wish they were or feared they might be. This return of clear, grounded sight is the 9th sign. For Leo, clarity is power. When you see clearly, when the emotional weather is calm enough that you can actually perceive what is in front of you without the distortion of fear or wishful thinking, you make decisions that are aligned with your truest interests. You invest your energy where it genuinely belongs. You recognize what deserves your loyalty and what has simply been borrowing it without fully earning it. The clarity that is returning now is the kind that allows you to build wisely. It will inform the choices you make over the coming weeks and months in ways that are deeply supportive of the new chapter that is taking shape. Trust what you are beginning to see. Trust the gentle, unforced knowing that arrives when you are still and quiet and simply present to what is real. That clarity is one of the most valuable things returning to you in this season, and it will serve you well. Sign 10. The fullness is coming back. That particular quality of aliveness, a feeling that your life is actually yours, that it fits you, that you are genuinely present inside it rather than simply moving through it on autopilot, is returning. And with it, the natural joy of being Leo. The warmth, the humor, the radiance, the generosity, the fire. All of it returning, deepening, becoming more fully expressed than it has been in a while. This is the 10th sign. And it is the most encompassing of them all, because it speaks not to one aspect of your life but to the whole of it. When Leo is fully alive, when the fire is burning clean and bright and in alignment with who you truly are, the effect on everything is profound. Your relationships become richer. Your creativity flows more freely. Your work feels more meaningful. The ordinary moments of daily life take on a quality of simple, genuine pleasure that does not depend on anything spectacular happening, but simply on being present and alive and real. You have two options after this video: close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are. The fullness is coming back, Leo. All 10 signs confirm it, and what is returning is not a previous version of your life, it is a better one. One that has been shaped by everything you have been through, refined by your resilience, and informed by the deeper wisdom you have gained. Welcome it. You have earned every bit of it.